Moving on, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal chairs fourth Board of Trade meeting, and Goyal said that India must expand its economy and create more employment opportunities by increasing exports, emphasizing the need for strong collaboration between central government and state to drive export expansion and diversification. My colleague Sumita Karir is joining on the phone line with more details on this story. Sumita?
Absolutely, Ankur. So, of course, the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is chairing the Board of Trade meeting. It should be about to get over. It was supposed to go until 7 p.m. And there are, of course, presentations that have been given by MOS of Commerce, Chitin Prasada, CIM Goyal, DG, FTA, and, of course, representations has also been made by state and union territory representatives as well. Now, in terms of this particular meeting, the agenda of the meeting is to discuss strategies for navigating the current global trade environment, given the fact that there's been a fallout of the 50% tariffs that the United States has imposed on India's exports. If you look at the October data, and another agenda is to boost cross-border e-commerce exports. That's going to be a key priority for the government. The government could also be looking at a dedicated zone for e-commerce exports from India, testing and certification of commodities to facilitate export and import activities, focus on digital-first governance and non-tariff measures are some of the key things that are likely to be expected at this meeting. In fact, I'm just headed to the Commerce and Industry Minister's press conference. We will be given more details about that. But what is the central government's expectation from state and union territories? Well, the states have to undertake outreach to exporters to benefit from export promotion mission. A gap analysis for infrastructure has to be done. There has to be more focus on district level exports, and states have to train MSMEs to target new export destinations. And of course, the last point being that there has to be cluster mapping and development. So all of this was discussed at that meeting that started this afternoon, and it should be about to get over by now. We have, of course, accessed the agenda and the key talk points. An official press conference, like I stated, an official press briefing will be held shortly on this matter.
Right, Sumita, thank you so much for getting us those details. But hang in there, there's another news piece that after Indian citizen Prema Wang Thorndog, who was living in the UK, was detained at the Shanghai Airport with the Chinese security forces calling her passport invalid because she hailed from Arunachal Pradesh. The MEA called it strong demarche Chinese ambassador to India. Zhu Feihong also clarified and said that India-China border issue is a complex one and it will take some time to get it resolved. He also urged China and India that they have sufficient wisdom and the ability to maintain peace and tranquility in the border areas. Sumita, take us through more of what's happened on this news piece.
You know, this has become quite controversial, Ankita, because of the fact that India and China have been looking at normalizing ties. And of course, border issues are, they're not the be-all and end-all of China and India bilateral ties, but they have been central to the kind of disruptions that we've seen between India and China, China bilateral ties with respect to border skirmishes that happened in 2020. And that really led to the ties between the two plummeting, which has also led to a sort of investments getting frozen. That's also led to a lot of wariness on the side of, both India and China, more so on the India side. The trust deficit has been there. But now, once again, like you mentioned about the Shanghai Airport harassment case, in fact, China's MFA spokesperson, Mao Ning, she has stated that the woman was not subjected to any compulsory measures or detainment or harassment as was alleged. In fact, she also stated that the entire China border inspection authorities, they have gone through the whole gamut of processes according to the enshrined laws and regulations, and they fully protect lawful rights and interests of the person concerned. Now, this is also, there is also Chinese ambassador to India, Zhu Feihong, who's also spoken about, India-China ties. He stated that the situation on the India-China border has been generally stable. However, it's very complex and, border issue is far from the entirety of the China-India relationship, but we should be preventing specific differences from affecting bilateral exchanges and cooperation. And in fact, he's also spoken about another very important thing as well, which is related to investments. He said that we welcome more premium Indian goods to export to China, and we do encourage more Indian companies to invest. We also hope, he said, that India will provide a fair, transparent and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese Chinese companies and that it's ready to work with India as a defender of multilateralism. Now, it remains to be seen how this issue gets resolved and whether or not this issue will have any impact on the investment climate. Remember, because like I just stated, the Press Note 3 regulations have been in place since 2020 that restrict investments beyond a certain point from countries that share a land border with India. So will it have an impact on that, given the fact that India is also looking at increasing FTI, from several countries, and there could be a possibility that Press Note 3 relaxations could be considered by the Indian government.
Definitely, Sumita, and stay with us because one more news piece about months of tough negotiations. India and European Union trade deal is finally inching closer to reality. India and EU are expected to finalize a free trade pact, a defense framework agreement, and a strategic agenda at their annual summit on January 27. EU is India's second largest export market after US, and this development comes in even as trade deal with Trump administration hangs in balance. Sumita, put it into perspective and how it is important in the light of India-US trade deal.
So remember the India-EU deal that has been one of the big priorities of not just the Indian administration but the EU administration as well. We've heard EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said on several occasions that trade with India is a priority. Economic and bilateral ties with India are a priority for the EU. Remember, because it's not just one or two countries. The whole world has been disrupted by Donald Trump's tariffs. And of course, these geopolitical disruptions have impacted EU as well. And EU is looking at India as a trusted geography for trade, for economic partnerships as well. Given the fact that India is a geography which has seen consistent growth, consistent GDP growth. We have a big domestic dividend as well. So definitely this is an important priority for the European Union. And earlier this year, when the leaders of both the geographies met, EU and India, they decided that we will be looking at finalization of a free trade agreement by the end of this year. Now, as far as the free trade agreement is concerned, we're given to understand that at least 10 to 12 of the chapters have found convergence, so whether it's related to agriculture, non-agricultural products. And then, of course, there are some contentious issues, roadblocks, essentially, that have emerged in the past few months. CBAM has been one of the key issues as far as this particular pact is concerned. In fact, a couple of months back when talks were on in their initial stages, there was also, a proposal that perhaps we could look at CBAM as a parallel engagement and not as part of this FTA. But we need to wait for that sort of clarity to come in. Other than that, steel and auto sectors, they have also remained some of the more difficult issues. But overall convergence has been achieved in 10 to 12 chapters. There are some pending chapters that are pertaining. In November, also we did see the trade team come to India for these negotiations. And of course, we were told back then that EU wants reduction in tax on products like wine, spirits, meat. And of course, CBAM was discussed at length. However, India has put its strong position as far as the CBAM issue is concerned. So definitely all eyes are on late January. And of course, all the developments pertaining to this particular FTA.
Right, Sumita. Thank you so much for getting us all the details on the India-EU FTA. But